A couple of days ago, a journalist with the New York Times by the name of Taylor Lorenz put out a tweet in which she said that online harassment had literally destroyed her life. This resulted in a major wave of moderate journalists and disaffected liberal types, as well as conservatives, roasting this journalist, saying, "Oh, calm down. Online harassment is not destroying your life." And I got to be honest, I don't care about this drama. Not at all. But it's become something such much bigger because Tucker Carlson, he highlighted Taylor Lorenz in a segment on his show in which he said the most privileged among us, a New York Times journalist from Greenwich, complaining about having their lives destroyed when most people would consider her to have one of the greatest lives you could possibly have. I'm not a fan of any of this, and I don't even want to talk about any of this. But now there's been a back and forth in New York Times and Tucker Carlson. And you know what? Why are we this stupid? Why are we as people so stupid? Everybody, every single person, myself included, every single person. Listen, when I saw that Taylor Lorenz, a journalist of the New York Times, tweeted that harassment had destroyed her life, I said, okay. And I scrolled on. It's just petty drama. I guess now that Donald Trump isn't in the news, people need some kind of culture war to happen. Look, I'm going to read through this. We'll break down the story for those that may not be familiar. And I will say absolutely outright. There's so much more important news that we can be talking about. And I wake up this morning to hear the New York Times putting out a statement about this. Why? I see Tucker Carlson talking about Taylor on his segment. Why? If she feels a certain way and you don't like her, criticize the ideas, criticize the behavior, criticize the entity, the institution that empowers this. But all of a sudden now it's just Tucker is getting harassed and Taylor is getting harassed. And I'm like, dude, I don't like any of it. Nobody should be going to Tucker Carlson's house. I understand why he's upset about this. Nobody should be harassing Taylor Lorenz. And I just think it's dumb that this is what the news cycle is. And I think it shows the decay that is our culture and our society. The big picture here, by all means, be angry, but please rise above this. I feel like everything is falling apart. When I turn on the news, when I come and I'm like, what's going on with the stimulus check? What's going on with those whose small business has been destroyed? What do we end up seeing instead? Petty drama because people like the rage bait. And here we are. Now, I got a lot of friends who don't like Taylor Lorenz, and I know a lot of people who do like Taylor Lorenz. And they want to justify why it is or isn't right to call out individuals and things like this. So let me say first and foremost, even if you think one of these journalists, any one of them, not just Taylor, any one of these journalists, the New York Times or elsewhere, has done something wrong. After a year of watching Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters smash and destroy buildings and start fires, and we know there is a double standard. What makes you think using the same tactics is going to win you any political points? I'm frustrated with this because, for one, I think it's like the least important story that could possibly be happening. But it's become this like ongoing, nearly week-long fiasco. And I'm upset that it seems like people just don't learn. They get pulled down into the weeds in the mud. They start fighting over petty drama instead of talking about ideas, talking about institutions. Instead, it just becomes Tucker Carlson is bad, Tucker's trending, and then Taylor Lorenz is bad and Taylor's trending. And I don't understand why, and I got to be honest, it was people on the right, as well as some journalists like Glenn Greenwald and Michael Tracy, I almost said Matt Taibbi, not Matt Taibbi, Michael Tracy, who were criticizing Taylor Lorenz. By all means, feel free to criticize. I often try to avoid saying people's names for two reasons. For one, I do not want to create a pile-on effect. I do not want people going to Tucker's house or anyone's house. I don't want them sending mean tweets to anybody. I want y'all to be nice. I want people to be nicer to each other. But I do want to criticize behaviors and ideas to avoid the pitfalls of petty drama and focusing and to focus on the things that are important. Like why people shouldn't behave certain ways. We must target the behaviors and the institutions that empower it. When you focus on individuals, be it Tucker, and the left does it all the time, and you focus on Taylor, it rallies people to just point the finger at each other and makes personal drama. Let me slow down. I'm sure a lot of people just don't care about this, and neither do I. But I should say it's grown to a point where I think it needs to be talked about because I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care if you're a liberal, a Democrat, or Republican. If you like Taylor, if you like Tucker, Do you see why this is the cultural decay of a nation, of our society? I know many of you may blame one side or the other more than the other, but ultimately, it's like I feel like I walk outside and I see, like two dudes arguing over like a parking space, and they're ready to go to war over it instead of just being like, move your car. Choose your battles. But this is what we've become. The culture war has resulted in Tucker doing nightly segments on one of the highest rated shows in the country for conservatives, talking about a tweet from a New York Times journalist and then following up and turning it into a flame war on TV. I just wish we could go back. Look, Tucker has done a lot of great work. I think it's important. I think there are things to criticize Taylor for sure. I actually, of all the journalists I've had to interact with over stories that I've been critical of, I actually have gotten the best response from Taylor, and I respect her for being kind to me when I've reached out with content. With criticisms and concerns. Ultimately, I think there are a lot of grifter journalists. There are a lot of bad people. I criticize them sometimes, but you'll also notice I tend to compliment people. I try really hard to do that. I am sick and tired of everybody just wants to throw mud at each other all the time. I don't want to do it. I don't care. I just don't want to do it. I want to talk about Joe Biden bombing Syria. I want to talk about the kids in the Middle East who are suffering because of the foreign policy of these people who get elected. And I understand you may say, but these New York Times journalists, they're the ones who make Joe Biden possible. Right. Criticize the New York Times as an institution for what they defend and what they fund. Let me read you some of the story, and I'll break down some of the arguments. We'll talk about it. Variety reports. New York Times defends reporter Taylor Lorenz from Tucker Carlson's cruel attack. They say the Times is defending reporter Taylor Lorenz after Fox News anchor Tucker Carlson mocked her during a lengthy segment in a Tuesday night broadcast. Carlson said Lorenz, a tech and internet culture reporter, was at the top of journalism's repulsive little food chain, and that she is far younger and much less talented than other prominent New York Times reporters in a segment discussing powerful people claiming to be powerless. He said, quote, "You'd think Taylor Lorenz would be grateful for the remarkable good luck that she's had, but no, she's not," Carlson said. He then read a tweet from Lorenz posted on International Women's Day saying how online harassment and smear campaigns have destroyed her life. This is the tweet in question, tweeted on my birthday, no less, in the wee hours of the morning. Taylor said, "For International Women's Day, please consider supporting women enduring online harassment. It's not an exaggeration to say that the harassment and smear campaign I've had to endure over the past year has destroyed my life. No one should have to go through this." Destroyed her life, really, says Tucker. By most people's standards, Taylor Lorenz would seem to have a pretty good life, one of the best lives in the country. In fact, lots of people are suffering right now, but no one is suffering quite as much as Taylor Lorenz is suffering, he continued. Let me say something. Yeah, I think there's valid criticism. I think the tweet from Taylor is absolutely one of those, I think it's kind of cringy. And that's about it. She has feelings. She tweeted her feelings, and I will carry on. She has stated that the online harassment and smear campaign she's endured has destroyed her life. Let me tell you something. Taylor Lorenz made a claim that a VC, a venture capitalist investor, said something that he did not say. And it caused a lot of problems for this individual. And then apparently she followed up later and made some more comments that were just not true. She said things that weren't true. I was disappointed, to say the least, that she did not issue a stronger correction. Instead, it was kind of this half-cocked, I'm glad there's a clarification here. No, she could have done better. And because of that, she likely received criticism. But when people see this, I noticed something. A lot of people saying getting called mean names is not destroying your life. Calm down. But she didn't say that. She didn't say she was getting called mean names. And so when I read this tweet, I just say there's not enough information here for me to make a strong assessment. When I saw the Covington kids thing and everybody was piling on and screaming in the faces, figuratively, digitally, of these kids about how evil and nasty they were, I just said, I don't have enough information. I don't know what happened. So what if Taylor is talking about someone showing up at her house? What if she's talking about someone sending her pictures of her family, sending her death threats? So when I hear that, I just say, whatever. Got no assessment. I don't know what the harassment is she's enduring, but I can say this. Nobody should be harassed. It's interesting that a lot of people say, If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. You know, Twitter is a place where you're going to get harassed and people are going to say mean things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I learned that a long time ago. You know, right after Occupy Wall Street, I get a bunch of followers. All of a sudden, it was just a barrage of people saying the nastiest possible things about me, digging through my life and my history. And it was sustained harassment. They were posting pictures of my family. They were talking about very personal family issues in an attempt to just cause me pain and suffering. And I realized it comes with the territory, I suppose, but it should not be that way. So by all means, you can think she's over the top. But I'll say this. I don't like the attitude. They're like, well, you know, this is just how things are. People are mean on the internet. No, I'll tell people to do better. I'll be an adult who's mature and recognize can't do anything about it. But online harassment is more than just saying mean things. I have people who post my address. I have people who have sent me death threats. Send me veiled threats. I've had extremists on the left who have posted pictures of my mom. I have had these things where I have had things that can be considered to be legitimate threats against the safety of myself and the people I care about and work with. And we take these things very seriously. And it is also true that Twitter does nothing about it. Nothing. That's true. So why are we immediately just trying to play culture war nonsense over this one tweet? I think it's stupid. But let's carry on because the issue became more about the New York Times and Tucker Carlson. The New York Times responded. They say on Twitter, our response to Tuesday night's Tucker Carlson broadcast. In a now familiar move, Tucker Carlson opened his show last night by attacking a journalist. It was a calculated and cruel tactic, which he regularly deploys to unleash a wave of harassment and vitriol at his intended target. Taylor Lorenz is a talented New York Times journalist doing timely and essential reporting. Journalists should be able to do their jobs without facing harassment. That last sentence is true and correct. And that includes Tucker Carlson. People showed up to his house. We're banging on his door. Tucker Carlson does not deserve that. And people should not be doing that to Tucker, but they do it all the time. They harass his advertisers. They try to get his show removed because they don't like his opinions. Tucker did not start any of this fighting. But I have to question why Tucker decided to name drop Taylor and criticize her over what was just one dumb tweet. How many people post dumb tweets? How many people? So this is, you know what I see? It's cancel culture in a sense. Now, obviously, I don't think every conservative is saying we're going to highlight this because she should lose her job or anything like that. They're just saying grow up. But I don't like the idea where it's like someone said something dumb one time and then we're going to turn it to the biggest news story in the country. But this is exactly what we're doing. And that's where we are. And the New York Times is to blame as well. I just want to say this. You know, honest, I gotta be honest. The person I blame the least for the stupidity of this news cycle is probably Taylor Lorenz. You know, look, there's probably a lot of people who want to be tribal and they want to say, but she's done bad things. She's smeared people. Sure, by all means, criticize her work. Absolutely. But if she puts out a tweet, I just don't see why it's newsworthy. I do not. And tons of people on the right decided to turn this into something where they're all quote tweeting it and criticizing her. And it wasn't just the right. Like I said, you had Glenn Greenwald, you had Michael Tracy, and those are two journalists I very much respect. And I'm just looking at this like, why? Y'all can talk about Joe Biden all day and night blowing up kids. Like, that's important, right? A New York Times journalist who put out a hyperbolic tweet that made you cringe a little bit. I can't believe this is the news cycle that we get. Maybe this is what we deserve because we are people who just love watching The Real Housewives or whatever, or the Jersey Shore or Real World MTV or whatever it is you kids are watching these days. We love YouTube drama. We love TikTok drama. We love vlogs. I mean, drama on YouTube is lucrative because people just like watching other people fight. I don't. I like watching people invent things. I like watching people accomplish great feats. And I like people trying to be nice. So let me tell you something. Let's rewind this and go back and say you want to criticize Taylor's tweet. Okay, I think you can. I think it's very simple. You tweet at her and say, Taylor, what kind of harassment are you dealing with? Let's clarify that first and foremost. Then she says, you may see this tweet right here. On March 10th, Taylor Lorenz tweeted, people being like, quote, they're making you famous. It's not fame. They want their armies of followers to memorize your name and harass you wherever you go. And she does a tweet from Kurt Schlichter, who just posted her name over and over and over again because Tucker said her name. Why? Kurt, why would you just post her name? Are we children? I don't care. Be mad at me. Criticize me. Tell me I'm wrong and we're allowed to throw mud. No, I don't care How stupid is this? Here's what I would say. What kind of harassment are you dealing with? I've dealt with harassment too. And if she came out and said people are being mean to me, I'd say, I definitely think people should not be mean to you. I definitely would appreciate it if we built a system like a social media system or a culture where we weren't mean to each other. I don't know what you can do about that, though, because people have a right to be mean. It sucks, but it's not illegal, and it's going to happen. Perhaps you can protect your account, or perhaps, Twitter is not a place you want to be active on. I've learned a long time ago, Twitter is just a hellscape where people just be mean and nasty to each other, which is why I've been engaging in what I call anti-tweeting, where I just will tweet nice things to people. And that's it, because I hate it. I absolutely despise Twitter and Facebook for that matter as well. There was a report that came out recently, I don't have it pulled up, where they basically say Twitter and Facebook are just making everyone hate each other and making everyone angry. I think I can tell you why. Let me see if I have the proper tweet pulled up. So here we go. This is from Matt Stoller. Matt is he works for the American Economic Liberties Project. And he said, here is the story of cancel culture in chart form. The chart shows Google's U.S. revenue going down. I'm sorry. It shows Google's U.S. revenue going up and U.S. newspaper revenue going down. I said, people don't want news anymore. They want comforting lies. So big newspapers watching their decline shifted into rage bait. This emboldened cancel culture because people needed to be constantly outraged. Now watch the revenue crash even more with Trump gone. Here's what's happening. And this is criticism for Taylor as well. As revenue for newspapers declined, newspapers needed to figure out what was maximizing their revenue. And they found rage bait and drama. They then shifted into a whole bunch of articles that were dedicated just to attack people and smear people for stupid reasons. We have one story from the Daily Beast. I'm sorry, this is not the right one. This is the story from the Daily Beast. The Instagram stars hiding their famous Muslim-hating mom, Pamela Geller. This is from Taylor Lorenz, March 1st, 2018. Now, it was explained to me by people who are concerned about Pamela Geller's safety that her private information was doxed by Taylor Lorenz. I don't know if that's true. That's what people have claimed. And I think it is absolutely fine and fair to criticize journalists. I do it all day. I criticize the news media. I try to focus on the institutions, however. And the reason for it is when you start pointing to the individual, you are no longer addressing the concept, the problem, or the power structures that allow them to do what they do. You've now created drama where a bunch of people are going to say, leave my friend alone. That's it. What would happen if Tucker Carlson said the New York Times is doing this? And what if he said a journalist in the New York Times is claiming that their life is being destroyed by harassment? Not really. You don't need to say the name. You don't need to say the name to get your point across. By engaging in the Tucker versus Taylor thing, all we've really done is turned reality into reality TV. The same thing was true for Donald Trump, and it's what I could not stand about the past 4 years. Now they're doing the same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm like, I don't care. But everyone else does. Isn't it a damn shame? This is the world we live in. We get to basically waste time talking about the people we don't like. There's this thing that Dave Rubin posted a while ago. He said small people talk about other people. Bigger people talk about what do you say? Bigger people talk about ideas, or I think it's bigger people talk about things that happened or something like that. And then I can't remember the exact quote. You probably know it better than I do. But basically the idea was bigger and mature people talk about concepts and ideas and structures and systems. And the small people just want to talk about other people. I don't want to make a drama channel. There are a lot of people on YouTube who make their bread and butter by simply making videos about me. Why? There are journalists right now writing stories about me. Why? What is the story about the guy on the internet complaining about his feelings, I guess? Perhaps I'm worthy of criticism in a lot of ways, and by all means, I deserve it. Not perfect. I'm a guy on the internet complaining about his feelings. But a lot of these people it's all out of context. It's all manipulations. It's because there's a market for hating each other. This is what I love so much about the online harassment stuff, right? So you have on the left, they'll take things out of context. They'll do it because it makes them money. But they'll never show you the nice things I say about people on the left. They'll tell you everything that I did wrong, but they won't tell you about the times I'm trying to be nice and do better. They'll say Tim Pool said this thing about Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, and they won't say Tim Pool praised Rashida Tlaib and AOC. They won't tell you that, Tim Pool said Juneteenth should be a national holiday. They won't tell you that Tim Pool said my tremendous respect to AOC for the work she did in Texas, helping provide relief to people. She deserves all the credit in the world. They won't do that because all they want you to do is hate me. They want to write articles about why you should hate me. That's a problem. I get it, though. They're going to write smear pieces about me. They're going to make things up. They're going to take all the drama in the world, whatever, because it makes money. So when I see Tucker Carlson do it, I don't care if he's Tucker Carlson, Joe Biden, or Donald Trump. I think it's stupid. He didn't need to say Taylor's name. There are a lot of journalists I want to criticize, and I can criticize them right now, but I avoid saying their names for the most part. Even last night when I was talking about the Lincoln Project, I don't say their names for two reasons. I don't want to make them famous. I don't want anyone sending a barrage of mean tweets at them. And I recognize what it means when I have over 1 million followers on one channel and millions across the board. And I criticize someone because I watched it happen before, inadvertently causing damage that I did not want to cause. Why? One of the primary journalistic ethics is minimizing harm, which means if I want to criticize a concept, idea, or a behavior, I want to make sure I do so in a way that doesn't damage people's lives. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people will say, well, Taylor deserves to be held accountable. Sure. The left says that Tucker deserves to be held accountable. And while I probably have a bias in favor of Tucker because I think he does a pretty good job, one of the best guys on TV, by the way, I will criticize him when I think this is nonsensical and a waste of time. I'll criticize Taylor Lorenz as much as I have said. Look, there was a point where someone was writing a smear piece about me, and I reached out to Taylor and I just said, hey, I want to let you know this is not true. And she respectfully and very politely to me said, oh, okay, thanks for clearing it up. I won't, do the story or whatever. And very easily, I was impressed, and I respect that. And I think if we do better to just be nicer, you know what I mean? So maybe it's biased of me. Maybe people are going to say, Tim, Taylor was nice to you, so you're being nice to her. And I'm like, maybe that's what we should do. So I respect that. And I say it all the time. There are very few reporters that I will talk to and say, here's the truth. And most of them just be like, well, we want to smear you because it's going to get clicks. Taylor didn't do that. She didn't do that to me. And I don't like the idea that people are just going to pile on and be nasty. Don't get me wrong. I do think Taylor deserves criticism. There are some stories she's been accused of conflicts of interest, unethical behavior. I said I was disappointed and she didn't issue that apology to Mark Andreessen. She is not a perfect person. But I still think you will not win by engaging in social flame wars and making it about people. And I just don't want to deal with that. I don't. I wake up this morning and the story just won't go away. And I want my point to be with this as you leave, if you even made it this far and if you even care. Maybe most of the people have already left this segment because they realized I don't care about this. Good. I'm glad you did. But Tucker Carlson did a second segment responding to the New York Times, and now it's becoming a fight between the New York Times and Fox News. And is this because we have nothing to talk about? Is this because we know that it'll get better ratings? Is Tucker talking about Taylor instead of, say, Middle Eastern conflict because he thinks his audience cares about it more? I won't do that. They'll say I will. They'll accuse me of that. But let me just tell you all. I will ignore stories like the royal family, Meghan Markle. I don't care if it's the biggest trending story in the world. I don't care. It doesn't matter to you or me. Some of you may like those stories and want to know more about them. And I can respect that if you do. But I don't think it will impact your life all that much. Now, trying to cancel the Queen, I guess, is a hilarious thing. I want to talk about things that I think matter. Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, the autonomous zone in Minneapolis. And I wake up and I see this, and I'll tell you one last thing. The reason why I did this segment, because now we're looking at dozens of stories, 2 prime time segments discussing it, and a New York Times statement. And I'm like, here it is. This is the headline news for 2021. Look what we've become. And it's not you. It's not me. It's all of us. Every single one. So by all means, you can be mad. You can disagree. I respect it. Comment below. Let me know what you think, and I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I'll see you all then.